And what's up, fantasy fans? DJ Yoakley, Rocky Brown here for the franchise on YSN Fantasy Sports Podcast. It is time to give you a little update on everything that is fantasy sports here locally, regionally, and nationally. And we turn to our resident expert here at Your Sports Network, Rocky Brown. Rocky, it was a busy week.
Oh my gosh. The baseball trade deadline was the best one I have seen in a long time. 56 trades, they said, in total. Every team made a deal. I don't think I remember a time that's ever happened.
Every team?
Every team made a deal. Now, granted, some of them were small deals, like Michael Givens from the Rockies. They should have moved Trevor Story. We'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But every team made a deal. Crazy.
That's never happened before in the history.
I don't know if it's ever happened before. I don't think I've ever seen it.
Because usually the deadline is for buyers and sellers, not necessarily just trying to maybe upgrade your roster a little bit, or try to free up some space for maybe a signing in the offseason.
Yeah, this deadline was unique because you had a lot of big name prospects getting moved.
Mm-hmm.
And some people said, maybe this just shows maybe the media doesn't view the prospects the same as the teams do.
Right.
Maybe, I know that the COVID year, a lot of guys came up during the COVID year. Maybe the systems aren't as deep as they once were. I don't know. I know that I liked a few of the guys that were dealt, so.
I thought it was fun. I thought it was great. You and Greg did a great report on the trade deadline from 3 to about 4:15 or so.
Yeah, we went about 3:15. We went till 4:30 because trades kept trickling out.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh made one in the last second that we were getting ready to sign off, and Greg's like, well, hold on for a couple minutes.
Yeah. Now, you guys did an excellent job. We're going to take your calls about your fantasy. We got the guru here of fantasy sports. He is Rocky Brown. He is a guy that has followed fantasy sports since basically the inception when we were just puppies. If you want to talk to him, chime in on the chat or hit us up on the phone lines here, the MP Vivo fan line, 330-886-0813, 330-886-0813. There it is right there. You can see it just kind of hanging out with us to make sure you don't lose it. All right, Rock, let's talk local first from the Pirates Indian standpoint. What stood out to you on the trade deadline?
So this is an example of two teams going in different directions, and this time it's the Indians. They're heading down. The Pirates are heading up. I disliked almost everything the Indians did.
Really?
Yeah. Oh gosh, let's take a look at what the Indians did. They made a few deals. I liked one of them. I like they got Miles Straw from Houston.
Mm-hmm.
They've needed an outfielder. He's fast. He's a guy that if he gets playing time in Cleveland, he's going to get you some points.
Okay.
He's got 16 steals on the year. He's a guy that runs. He's going to be top of the order for the Cleveland Indians. They're not a great team. They've dealt a lot. So they got him for Phil Maton, a relief pitcher. I like that deal. Then they made a trade with the Atlanta Braves, Eddie Rosario, and from what I've read, they've sent cash. Now, there's been reports that they received cash, but I believe that the report saying they sent cash is correct. And they got back Pablo Sandoval, and they released Pablo Sandoval instantly.
Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah, Kung Fu Panda was released. So they basically gave up Rosario for nothing. Then they dealt with a division rival, the White Sox. Cesar Hernandez headed the White Sox for Connor Pilkington. Now, Pilkington was the 33rd overall prospect in the White Sox organization.
In the White Sox organization, not in Major League Baseball,
yeah,
in the White Sox organization.
Now, that's frustrating because there were deals made for, Cesar Hernandez is a rental.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the deals made for rental players, you were noticing that teams were getting in the top 20, the other team's top 20 prospect.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, he could be a guy that Cleveland really likes. He's got good strikeout upside, but, he's a double-A pitcher. He's doing good in double-A. He's 23. Is he going to be a major league, starting pitcher, or is he going to be a reliever, or is he not even going to see the major leagues? That's the question, but not a high enough prospect, I felt like. Granted, and I could be wrong. Cleveland could really like this guy, but I didn't love it. Didn't love it at all.
So the worst trade of those?
Sandoval, because you gave up cash
for nothing.
Yeah, for nothing.
Why wouldn't you just hold on to him for the marketing value?
Well, so, at first I was thinking, okay, Cleveland's trying to do a salary dump. They're getting rid of salary. I thought that with the Hernandez deal too. Okay, the Dolans are cheap. So it made sense. But as the reports came out that they actually sent cash with Rosario, it's questionable. What are you doing? We had, Greg and I had speculated that perhaps the Sandoval pickup was because they thought they were getting some traction on a Jose Ramirez deal. So we were trying to read the tea leaves. And then when Sandoval was released, we're like, what are they doing? Makes no sense.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Cleveland's headed down. But the Pirates, I really liked what the Pirates did, actually.
I did too.
You know, Chavez, getting Michael Chavez, a guy that was once a heralded prospect for Austin Davis, a guy you can just plug in there, see what happens. You know, he was a hot prospect at one time. Why not?
Red Sox guy, right?
Yep, Red Sox guy.
So you look at that, and could that be a Ben Cherington guy?
Yeah,
I mean, you
and
look
he
at
plays
that,
multiple positions.
and Ben Cherington's a guy who did. If you don't know, he was in the Red Sox organization and their GM after Theo, I believe, and now you look at it. Ben is changing the culture in Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah,
Pittsburgh fans don't like it because we're trading away everybody we have. We don't have anybody. Like we have a 60-win team right now, and people are upset.
And they got guys that, I mean, I like Chavez. The Richard Rodriguez deal where they acquired Bryce Wilson. I really like Bryce Wilson.
Yep.
I didn't think that they were going to get someone of that quality. So, I mean, I loved it. I mean, they moved Tyler Anderson for prospects.
Tyler Anderson was a one-year wonder for the Pirates. So they had nothing.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
So getting a couple prospects for him, great.
Yep.
You know, they ended up, well, that's not correct. That what it says right there. But Tucapito Marcano for Adam Frazier. He's a guy that a lot of people really like, you know. So
who's the Jack something in that trade as well? Swinski. Yeah. So as soon as he was traded, and people have him at plus power in the minors. As soon as he's traded, he goes and hits a dinger in Altoona. So not that matters, but he's showing off. It doesn't matter what jersey he wears. The dude's just going to show up and play. Pirates, to me, are making all the right moves, and they're not playing, obviously, for 2021. Yeah. They're playing for 2023 and 2024.
And they played the Brian Reynolds market smart.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were talking Brian Reynolds. Mm-hmm. You know, they one of the teams that I saw, the Marlins, you know, they were talking Reynolds and Stallings. Mm-hmm. You know, Max Meyer, I think Max Meyer was going to be in that deal because they had talked Max Meyer with a few people. But the Pirates said, you know, we're not getting enough out of this. We're not going to do it. And that's being smart. You know, hold them. If you don't get what you want, don't do it.
The biggest one that bothers me, Rock, is the one from, was it last year when the big trade with the Rays? Or was that 2 years ago?
Yeah, a couple years
ago. 2 years ago. So if you look at that trade with the Rays, if you go back and you flip that over, the Pirates organization is tops in the major. And I'm talking about the farm system because you've still got Austin Meadows. He's probably in the majors by now. Yeah. But you have Meadows, you have Reynolds, you move Frazier. It's not a big deal. The big beef, though, is right now the Pirates are acquiring every middle infielder in America. Yeah. Why? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Find something that sticks. I mean, you know, Chavez, though, he plays a lot of positions. He can play outfield, he can play first. So I think really they've put their hat on Tucapito Marcano. I think he's the guy that he's going to be their second baseman. I don't think he's going to move the short or anything like that. But I like what they're doing. I really do. I think they're definitely a team that you watch for fantasy purposes moving forward, because the number one thing in fantasy is playing time. Yep. These guys are going to get playing time. The young guys are going to get playing time. And, you know, no one on a team, like, no one's going to bat, or not no one, but everyone's not going to bat like 190. Yep. You know, somebody's going to be the guy that is the all-star on the team. Definitely a team I like for fantasy purposes the next couple of years. And for fantasy purposes, since that's what this show is about, arrow up for who right now? Pirates or Indians? Pirates. Arrow up for Pirates. And if you're looking for fantasy players on each of these teams, who should we be keeping an eye on? So, I mean, obviously, the names like Reynolds for Pittsburgh, Ramirez for Cleveland. Those are guys you like. But you look playing time. So if Miles Straw comes in and he starts getting playing time, he's a guy I like for Cleveland. I think steals are undervalued big time. Chavez I like because he's going to get playing. I mean, playing time. Anybody, even if like an Eric Gonzalez comes back and he's going to get the shortstop time, play him. Yeah. Play him, I mean, if you don't have a better option, you go with them. You see what you can do. Pirates are not sold on anybody in the shortstop position right now. They've got Cole Tucker there. They've got Newman that's been there. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Cole Tucker finds his way on another team in the offseason. You think? Yeah, it seems like time's running out there.
First round pick.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that's tough. That's tough to go by because they've shelled out a lot of money, but we've seen it with Josh Bell. We've seen it with now looking at Cole Tucker, and of course, Andrew McCutcheon back in the day. So it's going to be interesting. I think that if you're looking for these players, they might not get a whole lot of playing time right now, Rock, but moving forward, some of these players that you heard in the trades are going to be big players for these organizations. Now, Indians are in a youth movement. The Pirates are also in a youth movement, but they've been in that holding pattern for quite some time. So now they're looking to make some moves and gain some value and some experience, as you said.
Yeah, and I like the Pirates prospects much better than the Indians prospects at this point. I think the Indians outfield may be the worst I've seen as an Indians fan. I mean, they traded Luplow for basically nothing.
Yeah.
He's a guy that could have helped out. Obviously, they're not making a push for the playoffs this year. They decided that. It doesn't surprise me. Dolans are cheap. Like that's.
I hear this.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. It's tough being a fan in this area. Baseball, I've said it forever, needs a salary cap. That's a discussion for another time.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. All right, let's turn the page to the national stage. Some winners and losers. 56 trades, you said.
Yeah, 56 trades. So, I liked what the New York Yankees did to an extent.
Cubs lost. Huge.
Yeah, Cubs lost. But you know what? The Cubs did all right. They got some decent prospects. Kevin Alcantara from the Yankees for Rizzo in that deal. He's a guy that might turn some heads here in a couple of years.
Okay.
They're rebuilding right, though. You see other teams, like look at the Rockies. Oh, we're going to hold Trevor Story for a competitive balance pick.
He's gone.
Yeah.
See ya.
Yeah. There's only been one competitive balance pick that I can think of off the top of my head that's really worked out was Mike Trout.
Yep.
But
he's okay.
Yeah, he's all right. But other than that, I don't see the point to, holding, especially when you can get multiple prospects back.
I'm calling BS that he said that's the best deal that they had available. You look at some of these deals and you go, wait a minute. You're telling me you couldn't bamboozle anybody in a Trevor Story? I know the A's were looking. There was a ton of teams looking.
Yeah.
And nobody was willing to deal for Trevor Story.
And somebody, people that were swinging and missing, like the Padres might have thrown a lot at you. I know they had Paddock involved in a deal, and that's a guy that some people think, might get it together. Paddock in pieces. Okay, we get 3 pieces for Trevor Story or half-year rental of Trevor Story because this team wants to keep up with the Dodgers.
Where are they going to put him, though?
You'll find a place.
You got Tatis in short. Now you got Frazier at second. You got Machado at third.
You can throw him at first and sit,
oh my gosh.
You can do anything.
Yeah.
You can play with the pieces.
Were you as disappointed with the Padres as I was?
I was expecting them to do something. And when the Dodgers made that deal to get Max Scherzer and Trey Turner, granted, the Nationals did great getting a return back. They got the number 1 and number 2 prospects in the Dodgers organization. I thought they did a great job there. But, I lost my train of thought.
Well, at the end of the day, what's going to happen with Scherzer. Scherzer loves it in Washington. He's going to go out and play, maybe win a championship in Los Angeles. He's going to fill in that role that Trevor Bauer left vacant. And then he's probably going to sign with Washington again.
Yeah.
So if I'm Washington, I knew that going in, and you're like, all right, you really want to do this?
Yep.
You really want to make a splash? Go get, the guy with 2 colored eyes.
Yeah.
And you can have him.
And the great thing about that, for fantasy purposes, that deal, Trey Turner is going to get outfield eligibility. He's going to start in center.
Yep.
That's huge. Just the flexibility is always huge in fantasy.
What team impressed you the most at the trade deadline? Like made the most moves the right way?
I might say the Cubs, actually. They got Pete Crow Armstrong in that Baez deal. Obviously, the Mets don't care about trading their top outfield prospects, Kelnick. They got Madrigal for Kimbrel and another piece. They did it right. Like, if you only have these guys that are half-year rentals, and they love Chicago, they love Chicago. Rizzo wouldn't surprise me if he was like, I'm going to go back to Chicago. Same with Brian. It wouldn't surprise me.
Brian, I don't think is going back. You saw him in the dugout crying.
Yeah.
But if he landed in San Francisco, my guy could have a career out there.
He could. But, it wouldn't surprise me. So they got pieces. They did it right. Compared to what the Rockies did, geez, just holding a guy that for a competitive balance pick, I don't like it. I think the Dodgers did well too. They got what I think is the 2 best pieces on the market. I think the Yankees did well. They finally got those bats to hit balls over that short porch. You know, they haven't had, I think, the right pieces there for that field.
Yeah.
I mean, Riz has already hit 2 home runs with the Yankees. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I like what the Yankees did.
So short term, who's the big winner in this?
Dodgers.
Dodgers?
I think the Dodgers are the clear favorites now. I mean, I still don't think the Yankees are going to get over the hump of the Red Sox and the Rays, even though, you know,
Wow.
I mean, the Rays made Rays deals. You know, they moved pieces. They got Nelson Cruz.
Yep.
They didn't give up a ton. Great. Good job.
The Pirates of the South.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they picked up Luplow for pretty much nothing from the Indians. He's a good guy. Like, you know, he hits well against lefties. You know, not a bad move.
Long term, who wins? Greg's saying Cubs and Nationals are his favorites.
I mean, you look at the prospects. I like what the Twins did. Let's say long-term Twins. I'm going to go Twins because Austin Martin is a great pickup. The fact that they got him for Berrios, it blew my mind. Simeon Woods Richardson, another one. They got 2 great prospects for Berrios. I didn't think they'd be able to do that. And that's another GM that stuck to his guns. He's like, we're not moving this unless we get 2 top prospects. He was telling teams that. Everyone else wasn't willing to meet those demands. Blue Jays came along. Okay, we'll do that deal. You know,
you feel the Blue Jays can make a splash here in the second half of the season after the deadline?
I think they're gonna. Them and the Yankees are going to be battling for third. I still think.
So are they building for the future, or are they just trying
he's
to?
He's a guy that you can keep past this year.
Okay,
Berrios. So, I mean, if I'm a GM, I wouldn't move prospects like that unless it's a guy that you think either one you can keep or is already has a contract past this year or is under control.
Right.
So.
Some of these guys are going to be on the fantasy waiver wire and the free agent wire. Who should people keep an eye on and maybe scoop up if they're out there right now in their leagues?
So I think you got to look at it from 2 positions because at this point in this year, you know if you're competing or not.
Right. If
you're not competing, you're looking at. I mean, I like Tucupita Marcano because he probably could be up at the end of this year, getting some time, and then you're looking at those guys that come up at the end of this year that okay, they might be starters starting next year.
Right.
So you go to MLB.com, you check out the pipeline.
Yeah.
You look who is a 2021 projected, date of coming up. And you go from there and you have to really dig into the teams, look at their depth charts, who's going to actually get time. Pirates, weak overall.
Yep.
He's a guy that's going to get time. I like anyone that moves to a better ballpark. So if you can get Gallo or Rizzo, give it a shot.
Yeah, I was going to say last week you said that, and it felt like everybody listened to you. Like the GMs were watching the show and saying, hey, we can move these guys to a better ballpark. We'll have better numbers.
Yeah. I mean, it's just that's the way it is. Surprised that the Reds didn't make a splash. That's another team. I think disappointed. Just popping into my head now.
Big Reds. Players next year.
Yeah.
Big players next year.
Hope.
Let's flip it over real quick. I know we didn't talk about this in the pre-show, but one thing that popped into my mind in the football side of things, Carson Wentz out indefinitely with the Colts. I was watching some of the NFL Network coverage yesterday of was it Welcome Back Saturday or whatever they had going on. I'm a little bit frustrated, and I know Colts fans are probably extremely frustrated because you have Carson Wentz and then 6 feet of crap, and then you're the rest of your QB roster.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the impact. Like you're going into, some people are drafting as soon as today for their fantasy football leagues. Do you roll the dice on Carson Wentz, or depending on how it's set up, the Indianapolis quarterback role, knowing they're either going to have Wentz or they're going to make a move?
So I think historically Wentz has shown that recently he has been able to stay healthy.
All right.
So I don't think you can take a chance on him right now. It might be unpopular, but I don't think that Jacob Eason's going to be a huge downgrade over Carson Wentz.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, that team is going to be their running team. Taylor, Mack. They've got another piece it's not coming to the top of my head right now, but they've got running backs galore.
They got everything else, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a plug-and-play system. That's why Phillip Rivers liked it so much last year. But Carson Wentz was supposed to be the answer. Yeah. Like, he was supposed to be the next Andrew Luck, so to speak, filling in that system.
He might end up the next Andrew Luck.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing. And Greg saying Nick Foles for a 6th, I don't think it's that easy.
No.
I just don't.
No, I mean, Nick Foles is what he is. And granted, he had a great run when the Eagles won the Super Bowl.
Has never returned to that form.
No, I mean, I think he had one good pass with the Jaguars for a touchdown. Didn't look like anything in Chicago. I think he was there for a minute.
Stunk.
Yeah, I mean, go with the young guy. Jacob Eason, actually, he knows the system. He sat and he watched last year. He's a young guy. You see what you have. There's been people that have liked him. They've got a team around him.
I know you've heard the same things I've heard, Rock. Deshaun Watson's on the block, and he would be one heck of a fit in that system.
So Deshaun Watson, I actually got in an argument with someone on Facebook about this. He is still being investigated by the NFL.
Correct.
And being investigated by the Houston Police Department.
Right.
He's not playing this year. I really don't think so. I think he showed up for contract purposes. If he plays, I'd be shocked. I wouldn't expect anybody to trade for him until the legal stuff works its way out, unless they're getting a heck of a deal where they can go, okay, well, here's a 3rd round pick. We'll have a wash this year, throw somebody in there, see what we can do, and he'll come back next year, hopefully.
So what you're telling me is the Indianapolis quarterback's going to be around after it's all said and done. He's going to sit undrafted on anybody's roster.
Yeah, I think unless something miraculously changes,
because they're not in the top 24. Most leagues are 12 max, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to draft more than 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So
unless you have a league that the rosters are fluid, where you can just add whatever. I've heard of people drafting 6 quarterbacks at the beginning of the year and then trading for the pieces that they wanted as the season wore on.
That's wild.
Yeah, I mean it's a risky move, but I mean I've heard of people doing that. I mean, if you happen to neglect, because I mean you got to play the draft, and if quarterbacks go early and often and you grab one, but you're looking, okay, I need a wide receiver, I need a running back, there's still a good tight end on the board, and you wait till maybe the end of the draft, maybe Jacob Eason's the guy that you take a shot on, because it's not going to hurt you a ton.
Right.
Taking him, see what happens, and then, I mean, if he stinks, there's going to be people on the waiver wire, especially if you have a small league.
Right. Aaron Rodgers came out and not exactly happy to be back in Green Bay.
No,
he's made his appearance, and it sounds like he's getting at least one of his receivers back in Randall Cobb.
Yeah.
How does that impact the draft now, when people a week ago were saying, "I'm not touching Rodgers"?
Yeah. I mean, he's up there still. He's a
MVP
candidate. Yeah, reigning MVP candidate. Every year. I'm really interested to see what the Packers, how the cohesion is on the team this year, because it's clear that Aaron Rodgers has mighty swing with the team. I mean, he's like, okay, I'll come back, but give me Randall Cobb. It reminded me of that draft day scene where Kevin Costner's like, I want David Putney. And just because I feel like it, that was Aaron Rodgers' I want David Putney just because I feel like it.
Like Randall Cobb is not going to be an impact player for the Packers.
No, he won't.
But he's going to get more passes thrown to him than not because of who the quarterback is.
Yeah.
And guess what? That's Aaron Rodgers' face on the line.
Well, yeah. And I mean, Rodgers, I don't necessarily disagree with the things he's saying, but he went up there and he had that, prepared speech in his head. You could see he was kind of like rattling off his thoughts
one by one.
And talking about how the Packers have neglected veteran players, and Julius Peppers wanted to retire with them. And, we cut Charles Woodson. Yeah, John Kuhn and Charles Woodson when he was still playing at a high level.
Jordy Nelson.
Yeah, and he's not wrong. And, I mean, I think the only thing I disagreed with was him saying that him and Brett Favre's situations are entirely different. I don't think it's all that different. I think he's now feeling exactly how Favre felt when they drafted a young guy and didn't say, hey, we're going to draft Rodgers. He probably understands Brett Favre, being less than welcoming to him a little bit more, I imagine. I mean, Favre dealt with the same stuff for years. They were letting guys go. They weren't getting him that top receiver. At least Rodgers has Devontae Adams. The Packers have always neglected the offensive side. They haven't looked for explosive weapons. I don't know why.
Since they've had Rodgers.
Yeah, since they've had Rodgers. And when they had Favre.
Yeah.
I can't think of a big signing they had outside of like Andre Rison when he was cut by Cleveland. He was already a guy that was, not at the upper echelon anymore by the time he went to Green Bay.
All right. So buying or selling on Rodgers, top 5 draft pick.
Not top 5. I wouldn't take him top 5. Just going off of the practice drafts I've done. the running backs are going early and often. He doesn't seem to be, maybe one or two at quarterback. But like third round, third round. Yeah, I like him there.
Okay. One of the things you want to talk about, because we got like 5 minutes left in the broadcast, is fantasy wrestling.
Fantasy wrestling. Yeah. Fantasy wrestling is starting to become a thing, which really surprised me because as we know, you're a wrestling fan.
I am.
We've seen, this, it's scripted, so
tribute to the troops.
Tribute for the troops. It's scripted. So now they're doing it. It's dropthebelt.com. They have a fantasy league and they do all sorts of things like moves done. If the guy does a promo, all sorts of stuff. So they have these WWE and AEW and NXT leagues. So that's becoming a thing now. So that's going to be interesting to watch that moving forward. And I know that DraftKings and FanDuel have had wrestling contests, free contests, but wrestling contests nonetheless for like WrestleMania and stuff where you can pick guys. And I wonder if moving forward, maybe that's going to start becoming the norm. Granted, I don't know who WWE is going to have at this point since they're cutting everybody under the sun.
It's a mess.
Yeah,
it's a mess.
It's not going great.
So the thing that caught me off guard when you sent me this last night was wrestling, and earmuffs kids out there, is scripted.
Yeah.
It's the finishes are scripted. It's choreographed. It's all this stuff. Now it's entertaining, and it's to us, we still watch it. How do you get fantasy out of this? How does that become not absolutely somebody can cheat the system and make a lot of money?
I think you definitely have to go a lot based on moves done because, that's not going to get out in the sheets as
that's true.
Read sheets, you're not going to hear, oh, well, they're going to have 19 false finishes, so based on moves, based on like airtime, maybe based on, if they get a promo that night, I think they can do a lot of different things. It seems like it's taken off. So,
Okay.
I mean, it's another thing to, maybe get people to watch the sport or the entertainment sport, whatever you want to call it. I mean, is it any more scripted than boxing? I don't know.
Oh, them's fighting words from Rocky Brown. Rocky, a couple minutes left. 1 to 10. Are you buying on fantasy wrestling?
I've looked at it. I don't know if this year maybe trying a league, but as we start building this for the franchise stuff and as we get people joining leagues, if there's interest, that's something, we'd look at doing because,
love it.
Yeah, we're all about whatever everyone wants to do, what the area wants to do.
All right, you're one thing, and
gosh,
everybody loves this.
I thought about the one thing earlier, and I had it in my head, and now it's escaping me. Oh, it's a show on Netflix, Manifest.
Okay.
I might be late to the party on that, but that's something my wife and I have been watching. It's given off like Quantum Leap vibes a little bit. I don't know if you remember Quantum Leap. If you haven't checked out Quantum Leap, check out Quantum Leap too. It's got that like, do good to, for a purpose. And I don't know. I'm drawn to shows like that. So it's a pretty good show. It's got some like science fiction, some, different aspects in it, but it's pretty good. And it was canceled after 3 seasons. So season 1 and 2 are on Netflix, season 3 on Hulu. But because people have been watching it so much, they're going to be brought back for a 4th season. So the power of the internet, and streaming, it's crazy right now.
I have one this week. My wife actually turned me on to this, and it's a show that's going to be premiering this fall on NBC. I think it's called Average Joe.
I saw the preview for that. It's interesting.
I'm really interested how they're going to do this because like you got to chase your passion or chase love or chase money or all this stuff, and it's all about one guy and like the cast of characters around him and how they change based on what he goes after. So I think we all struggle with that sometimes. Yeah. So and not anybody has ever, that I know at least, has ever not said, I wonder how my life would be different if I did this, or I chased this path. So I'm interested to see how that goes. So I've struck out a couple times on shows. Like I remember Jericho on CBS. Yeah, loved it. The people actually brought it back for the extra year, and they still didn't finalize the story. This Is Us. I'm a sucker for This Is Us. I'm way behind on it, but before I was like one after the other. So check out Average Joe this fall on NBC, which of course on WFMJ 21 affiliated and proud partner with YSN. Rocky, before we go, not one last thing. What's one thing you want people to remember heading into this week, and we'll touch on next week? Just from a fantasy perspective. Maybe a tip. Just the tip.
Yeah. Okay, for a tip for this week, watch strikeouts. Strikeouts can, especially if your league has negative points for strikeouts. Watch the strikeouts for the guys that are coming into the New York Yankees.
Yeah.
Let's see if they're going to purposely swing for more power. Maybe their average dips a little bit because they're, Rizzo's hitting them out of the park right now. So yeah, watch it for anyone moving to a park that maybe starts off a little hot. See if their strikeouts rise. Maybe deal them or look at something if your league still has the trade market open if their strikeouts rise. So.
And finally, the one last question, I promise. Thumbs up, thumbs down for Madden ratings this year.
Oh my gosh, we could have a whole episode on thumbs down. 78 for Ben Roethlisberger, 85 for Matt Ryan. I don't understand it.
86 for Austin Hooper. Austin Hooper and Gronk the same rate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll talk about that next week.
Yeah, that might be something to
There's some sizzle in that.
Yeah.
There's some sizzle in that. For Rocky Brown, I'm DJ Yoakley. This has been For the Franchise Fantasy Sports Podcast on your sports network. Again, tune in each and every Sunday right here at noon on the network. Till next time, see you later.